So students, we continue from where we had left off. That is page 54 of your textbook, Treasure Trove. And we were doing Muni's conversation with the shopkeeper, the shopman. Now the shopman said, if you could find 5 rupees and a quarter, you will have paid off an ancient debt. How much have you got now? So Muni has no doubt come to the shop to buy the essential ingredients so that he can have the drumsticks from sauce, and his wife has already told him to go and bring certain things from the grocery store. Now in this village there is this only grocery store where Muni has to go and get the things from, but the problem is that Muni does not have the money to buy these things. So the shopman, we have seen initially that Muni was trying to cuff and again and again till the shopman took notice of him and then said that if you keep on cuffing like that, something will happen to you, etc., etc. And then because he called him a young man and Muni laughed, he was hoping that the shopman would give him things on credit. The shopman said, if you could find 5 rupees and a quarter, you will have paid off an ancient debt. Ancient means a very old due which you did not pay. You have taken things from my shop earlier and you haven't paid up. So if you can first pay up that amount, then possibly I can give you more things which you require. How much have you got now? So the shopkeeper asks him how much money he was carrying with him. I will pay you everything on the first of the next month. Who says this? Muni. So as always, the shopkeeper is not going to be impressed by what Muni is saying here. He says, as always, and whom do you expect to rob by then? Because the shopkeeper also knows very well that Muni doesn't do any work, and so he does not have a steady source of income. So how is he going to pay up next month if he is promising now that he will pay the money next month? The shopkeeper is the last person in the world to believe the words of Muni, because Muni does not earn. And so the shopkeeper says, whom do you plan to rob? Because there is no other alternative left for you unless you rob someone and get the money and then come to pay me off. Muni felt caught and mumbled. So why did he feel caught? He felt caught because of the fact that the shopkeeper had understood that he was actually making up an excuse to take things on credit, and so he was mumbling. That means he was searching for words which he could possibly say in response to what the shopkeeper had said. And what did he say? My daughter has sent word that she will be sending me money. Now Muni has no children of his own, but he is making up a story this time once again, and he says that his daughter is going to send him money and he will pay the shopkeeper. Have you a daughter? Sneered the shopman. Now of course, if you live in the same village, then obviously people know who you are and what your family is like and what your earnings are. So obviously the shopkeeper knows that he does not have a daughter. But Muni is claiming that he has a daughter. So have you a daughter? The man is sneering at him. And she is sending you money? For what purpose? May I know? First of all, you don't have a daughter. And secondly, you are saying that she is going to send you money. Why will she send you money? Even if you had a daughter, why will she send? So give me a reason. Birthday, 50th birthday, said Muni quietly. So Muni has to say something. So he says that it is my daughter will send me the money because it will be my 50th birthday. 50th. Now is Muni 50 years old? He could be more than that, but he thinks that he is 50 because these village people, illiterate people, they don't have track of when they are born and how old they are. Nowadays awareness has built up, and so the villagers may be able to produce birth certificates. But at the time when this story was written, it was the time of British Raj in India, and people were mostly illiterate, and for people like Muni, it was next to impossible to even know when they were born. So 50th birthday, he claims it is going to be his 50th birthday. Birthday? How old are you? Muni repeated weakly, not being sure of it himself. 50. He always calculated his age from the time of the great famine, when he stood as high as the parapet around the village well. So, at the time of the great famine, which had struck India during the British period, famine means when there is shortage of crops, food crops, and people have to go hungry, and there is scarcity of food and other such materials, because of which people die in large numbers. So it was a kind of foodlessness throughout the country. So when he was a small boy, Muni remembered the famine which had struck India, including his family and his village, and he was at that time not taller than the sides of a village well. The well, any well, if you have seen a well, it has a surrounding brick wall. Now it has a certain height which is about waist high, so up to the waist, so that people can lean over it and lower a bucket and pull out the water. So Muni was of the height of the wall around the well, the circular wall, brick wall or stone wall, whatever it was. He was of that height, meaning to say he was about the height of someone, a full grown adult person's waist at the most. So anyway, so he calculated his age on the basis of that famine. But could it possibly be that he is 50? If he was about that height, then he should be more than 50. At least he was 4 or 5 years old at the time, so he should be 55 or nearly 60. So anyway, he says that he is 50. So, but who could calculate such things accurately nowadays with so many famines occurring? So India did not just face one famine, there were several famines at different times, different decades, till before independence. So it was difficult really to say how old Muni was, but he could be at least above 60. The shopman felt encouraged when other customers stood around to watch and comment. So now the crowd was taking advantage of Muni and enjoying whatever he was saying. More likely you are 70, he said to Muni. You also forget that you mentioned a birthday 5 weeks ago when you wanted castor oil for your holy bath. At this, Muni unobtrusively rose and moved off, because Muni could understand that the shopman or the shopkeeper was not going to give him anything on credit, because the previous due incurred by him has not yet been paid by him, and secondly, he is telling lie after lie which the shopkeeper can understand. Now he is a grocery store owner and he has to deal with these type of customers on a daily basis, especially if he is a shopkeeper in a village. So naturally the shopkeeper is very difficult to deceive. So Muni leaves the shop. He hasn't got the things which his wife told him to bring, but he has to return home empty handed. He later told his wife, after reaching home, that scoundrel would not give me anything. So he is abusing verbally the shopkeeper behind his back, and is calling him a scoundrel and saying that he was not ready to give me anything. So go out and sell the drumsticks for what they are worth. So Muni gives up hope of eating the drumsticks. Instead, he tells his wife that I have somehow managed to gather these drumsticks. Now please go and see if you can sell it somewhere and get some money. He flung himself down in a corner to recoup from the fatigue or the tiredness of his visit to the shop. His wife said, "You are getting no sauce today, nor anything else." Obviously not, because the ingredients were absent, so not possible. So page 54 is over. We have started with page 55. Please follow the text. I can't find anything to give you to eat. Fast till the evening. It will do you good. So Muni's wife says, there's nothing that I can give you to eat, because there's nothing in the house or their poor hut. There was no food item left. So she says that remain in starvation, in hunger till evening, because she was planning to go out and she was planning to do some work somewhere and earn a few pennies, by means of which she would possibly buy some of the food items and return home at the end of the day and provide Muni with some cooked food. So she's saying this, take the goats and be gone now. So take the goats and take them for grazing. At least the goats should not go hungry. She cried and added, don't come back before the sun is down. He knew that if he obeyed her, she would somehow conjure up, as if out of magic. Conjure means magically. Okay, so she would somehow conjure up some food for him in the evening. So this has happened before. Muni's life is almost every day like this. So he knows that when there is no scope for him to bring in any food, his wife then takes up the responsibility and tells him to go with the goats for grazing, take them for grazing, and she goes in the meantime somewhere to find work, and she earns a little bit and she buys the supplies required for cooking, and then she returns home and cooks a meal by evening so that Muni at least gets to eat something at the end of the day. So you can well imagine how this couple, how they live. They hardly ever have proper food, and then we have seen the kind of food that Muni is given in the morning and the kind of lunch he is provided by his wife, and now no food absolutely throughout the day. At the end of the day, he will get to eat something if his wife is lucky enough to earn something. So anyway, Muni listens to his wife. So only he must be careful not to argue and irritate her. So Muni knows very well that if he irritates his wife, then he won't get anything. Her temper was undependable. She had a bad temperament. Now that was mainly because of two reasons. One is that she is old, because after all, if Muni is around 70, as the shopkeeper predicts, then his wife will be at least around 65 or 60. So even she is not a young woman, and so she has a difficulty in this old age to somehow manage the family and look after her husband, and that's the reason why she loses her temper. And secondly, the poverty that they suffer from is also another reason for frustration and temper. So her temper was undependable. You couldn't depend on it in the morning, but improved by evening time. So in the morning, her temper was undependable because there was nothing in the house, no money, no food. But by evening, if she managed to find work during the day, and if she returned with some money, or if she was able to buy the supplies, then she started feeling better, because being a woman, she also wanted to cook and wanted to provide food to her husband and also eat something herself, because they were both starving. So she was sure to go out and work, grind corn in the big house, sweep or scrub somewhere. So just as a domestic help, she would possibly go and do some manual labor in the big house, most probably in the big house, and earn enough to buy food stuff and keep a dinner ready for him in the evening. Unleashing the goats from the drumstick tree, Muni started out. So what does he do? He unties the goats. The goats are tied to the tree, to the trunk of the drumstick tree outside his hut. So he removes the ropes from the tree and then takes the goats for grazing. Muni started out, driving them ahead and uttering weird cries from time to time. So you must have heard shepherds and people who take cattle for grazing. They keep on screaming and shouting in a very peculiar tone to the cattle so that they move in the right direction. So that is what Muni is doing right now. He passed through the village with his head bowed in thought. He did not want to look at anyone or be accosted. So Muni was always bullied by some idle youngsters of the village, and so Muni did not want to make any eye contact with anyone. Just very quietly he just passed through the village. A couple of cronies lounging in the temple corridor hailed him, but he ignored their call. So these are some of those people who often make fun of Muni and enjoy and laugh and have a lot of fun at the expense of Muni. So they called out to him when they saw him passing, "Hey Muni, come here, come here." But Muni did not respond. He simply ignored their call and went his way. The shopman had said that he was 70. At 70, one only waited to be summoned by God. So this was Muni's reflection about his own life, that when you are 70 years old, all that you look forward to is someday God is going to call you and then you have to go. When he was dead, what would his wife do? Now, his wife has also, in the beginning of the story, said this to him that maybe next year you won't be alive. So, it is every probability Muni is around 70 years old, and he has only a few teeth left in his mouth. His wife had mentioned that. So, he couldn't possibly be 50. He had to be more than that, because at 50, people have their teeth. So, by 70, they lose their teeth, 70 and 75. So, he was wondering what his wife would do when he was dead. They had lived in each other's company since they were children. See, Muni and Muni's wife both belonged to this village of Kritam. And as children, they had grown up in the village. They were children of the village. And eventually, they got married and started living together. They had lived in each other's company since they were children. So, there is a bond, there is an attachment. Muni's wife is outwardly rude, but actually she also loves Muni a lot. He had been told on their day of wedding that he was 10 years old and she was 8. In the olden days, this story dates back to, I told you, the British period. So naturally, that was the time when people got married very early. In fact, child marriage was a very common practice in India in those times, and that's the reason why at the time of his wedding with his wife, he was told he was 10 years old and she was 8. Progeny, none. Progeny means children. So as I told you earlier, Muni and his wife did not have any kids. Perhaps a large progeny would have brought him the blessing of the gods. Perhaps if he had a big family of many children, then he would have been blessed by the gods of heaven. That's what Muni thinks. That's the reason why he thinks that he is poor and that his fortunes have fallen, because he does not have children of his own. Only on the outskirts did he lift his head and look up. So when he reached the outskirts of the village, he had crossed the last house of the village, and now he was in the open field moving towards the highway. There was a highway far ahead, about 3 miles away from, about a couple of miles, in fact, couple of miles away from Muni's village. So he urged and bullied the goats until they meandered, means moved in a twisting and turning manner. Okay, meandering course of a river. You will be reading in geography. So meandered means went left, then again right, then again left, in this way. So through the or along the village path. So meandered along to the foot of the horse statue on the edge of the village. So there was this horse statue. Now you see, we have already seen the 2 goats and we need to see the horse now. So here is that horse statue. He sat on its pedestal. Pedestal means the base of the statue on which the statue is mounted. So he would sit on the pedestal for the rest of the day. Why? Because he had nothing to do. The goats would be grazing around him and he would just be resting under the shadow of the statue on its pedestal. The advantage of this was that he could watch the highway and see the lorries and buses pass through to the hills, and it gave him a sense of belonging to a larger world. See, Muni's world was limited to the small village in which he lived, microscopic dot, Kritam. But when he came to the highway and when he saw the movement of traffic, these vehicles were coming from far off places and going off to other far off places. So he felt a sense of belonging to a greater world when he looked at these moving vehicles. The pedestal of the statue was broad enough for him to move around as the sun traveled up. So the sun is never stationary, it moves, keeps moving in the sky, and accordingly the shadow of the statue keeps moving. So the pedestal down below was big enough for Muni to shift his place according to the movement of the shadow, because lying down directly in the sun was very impossible for Muni. So now, as the sun traveled up and westward, or he could also crouch under the belly of the horse for shade. So he could move with the movement of the sun, and he could also take rest under the belly of the clay horse. Now here on your screen I have the picture of a clay horse, somewhat similar to the one which was there near Muni's village. So I am zooming out so that you can get a clearer view of the horse. So you can see here, this is the kind of horse. This is not exactly the same horse which is mentioned in the story, because the story is only a story. But this is a horse statue, and you can see the base or the pedestal down below. And then there is a human character standing in front of the horse. So just remember this picture, because we will now have the description of the horse coming up, and we will also have the description of an American tourist who comes up to Muni. So there is a sketch, an artist's illustration of the confrontation or the meeting between the American tourist and Muni. So it is something like this. I am showing you once again here the sketch. I am zooming in now. You can see that Muni is sitting, he is right under the horse statue, and he's sitting on the pedestal, and there is this American tourist talking to Muni, and his vehicle is parked behind. His vehicle has run out of fuel, and this man wants help from Muni. So this scene is now coming up. Let us see. So dear students, with that we come to the end of today's class. So please mark up to where we have read today, and I have shown you the two pictures, one of the clay horse and then an artist's illustration of how Muni was sitting under the statue when this American tourist comes up to him and talks to him. So that's it for today's class. Thank you very much.